Please be seated. Today, we're joined in blessed community to bid one we have known and loved farewell, to search for life's deeper meaning, to seek the comfort and healing we offer one another, to say yes to life's greatest expression, love. Love believes all things, hopes for all things, endures all things. Love never dies. Today we celebrate the life of Ambi Hill Smith, beloved mother, daughter, sister, aunt, niece, cousin, teacher, advocate, maker of music, protector of animals, friend. Ambi has died, but we come together today not to focus on her death, but to offer gratitude for her life. This poem by David Harkins offers a message that so many of us need to hear today. This is called She Is Gone. You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she is gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what she would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. We have two dear friends of Ambi's with us this morning to lead our meditation, the chanted blessings.
Please listen to us. Be peaceful. Sabbitiyo vivajjantu, sabba rogo vinasansatu, mate bhavatantantarayo, sukhi digayuko bhava, bhavatu sabba mangalam, Rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sadha sotti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam Rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sadha sotti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam Rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sadha sotti bhavantu te anicchāvata sankhārā uppada vaya dhammino uppajjitvā nirojjanti tesang upasamosukho abhivādana sīlesansa Niccang vaddha pacāino Cattaro dhamma vaddanti Ayuvanno sukam bhalang Ayurārogya sampatti Sagga sampatti mevaca Atho nibbāna sampatti Iminate samijjatu.
May all misfortunes be warded away. May all ailments cease. May no calamities befall you. May you live a long and peaceful life. May all the blessings be upon you. May all the devas protect you. By the protective power of all the Buddhas, may you forever be well. May all the blessings be upon you. May all the devas protect you. By the protective power of all the Dhamma, may safety ever be yours. May all the blessings be upon you. May all the devas protect you. By the protective power of all the Sangha, may safety ever be yours. All component things are indeed transient. They are of the nature of arising and decaying. Having come into being, they cease to be. The cessation of this process is bliss. If you are respectful by habit, constantly honoring the worthy, four things increase: long life, beauty, happiness, strength. May you have long life and be free from illness. May you have rebirth in heaven. May you one day attain Nibbana.
Bhajeta mithe kalyane bhajeta purushottama. Associating a wise people, having a noble friend, that is supreme blessing. I am very blessed to have a friend like Ambi. We are best friends since 2007. When I came to Oklahoma City, I didn't know how to speak English. I'm from Sri Lanka. She was one of the teachers, and she's one of my best friends. I met her at this church. I used to do a mindfulness meditation class in this church every Friday evening. That's how we met. I'm sure Ella, Tori, Lily, I'm sure you had a lot of fun at that time when you came to our temple, because I spoke a broken English, and what she taught me first, you drove me crazy. Yeah, it was my first lessons with her. So it is very honor, blessings to be here today. I'm so sorry about your loss, but I'm so proud of you guys because you had a beautiful mother. And so no words what she did, what she was expecting. Our last conversation was exactly 10 days ago. I was in Sri Lanka. Always she texts me, Bante, I miss your voice, I miss your chanting. Sometimes she asks me to send some voice messages. I did that. I think it's very important to have a noble friend. We were noble friends. And always she asked me to help to other people. Her last text was, there is one of our friends, Thera. She needs some help. She asked me to call her or text her and helping her. She was that type of person. And mother, sister, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. And no worries, she's not here physically. I'm sure spiritually and mentally, she's somewhere with you guys. And thank you very much, many blessings. So we are going to do a special Buddhist memorial service for her at our monastery. So I talked with Tori. So please, whenever you've done your college, come and join with us. We can do something. Thank you very much. Many blessings.
Any obituary is incomplete, and certainly with such a rich life as the one we are celebrating today, this is far from the whole story. But this is a very abbreviated version of Ambi's story. Ambi Hill-Smith died at her home in Del City, Oklahoma, on April 7th, with her family by her side, after a 3-year courageous battle with colon cancer. Ambi Sue Hill was born on September 21st, 1971, in Dodge City, Kansas, to Bruce and Sue Hill. After moving to Hutchinson, Kansas in 1973, she attended elementary school and middle school and graduated from Hutchinson High School in 1990. She was baptized in the Church of Christ in Hutchinson, and later she became a member of First Unitarian Church, Oklahoma City, where she sang in our choir and was active in many other parts of congregational life. She attended Oklahoma Christian University and graduated from the University of Central Oklahoma in 1999 with a bachelor's degree in psychology. Ambi worked in special education in several schools in the Oklahoma City area, her latest being Special Services Coordinator at Western Heights Middle School. She had a special love for children, especially her 3 daughters, Tori, Lily, and Ella. She was a member of the National Educators Association and Oklahoma Educators Association. She loved singing, reading, conservation, naturalism, and aromatherapy. She owned an apothecary at one point. She also loved spending time with her family, being comforted and interacting with her beloved dog, Rue, volunteering with the Bella Foundation, the Midwest Animal Shelter, rescuing animals, finding homes for them, and helping her friends and family any way she could. She was a strong believer in equal rights for everyone. As noted in your order of service, Ambi chose to put her beliefs into action even in death. She has chosen a green burial to raise awareness about more environmentally friendly alternatives to cremation or embalming. We grieve today with the members of Ambi's family, her mother, Sue, Sister Stacy, 3 daughters, Tori, Lily, and Ella, her niece Savannah, her aunts, her uncles, and numerous cousins. In death, Ambi joins her father, Bruce, grandparents Delmer and Ruby, and Frank and Bertha Jones, and infant nephew, Vincent Bruce Ford. I'd like to invite Reverend Mark Christian now to give the eulogy.
The author of Ecclesiastes, from the wisdom or Sophia tradition of Christianity, observes that to everything there is a season, a time, and a purpose for all things under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time for war, a time for peace, a time to be born, and a time to die. Yes, for everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. We gather today in the presence of death. We gather neither in fear nor praise of death. We gather in the Spirit and the things of the Spirit as revealed to us in the life of Ambi Hill Smith. In the presence of life, we say no to death, and in the presence of death, we say yes to life. I'm so pleased that the family has asked me to be here, and Reverend Diana has concurred. I can remember the first time I saw Ambi. She was sitting right over there, about the 3rd row from the back, right by the end, and her 3rd child hadn't been born yet. She and her husband and 2 children would come and sit there. I knew it because that's where the sun would shine in on Sunday mornings. And they were just sitting there in the sunshine. And there was something about Ambi, I'm not sure whether she attracted sunshine or just reflected it magnificently. But it was true. And so that was my first night. And then they left for a little while, and after the 3rd baby, they came back. It didn't take me long to recognize Ambi had a special spirit in the fully religious sense of that word. That's one of the reasons that for several years, I think 3, not all together, but spread out over a period of time, I asked her to do the reading from the Unitarian tradition in the Interfaith Thanksgiving service we have here in Oklahoma City. Because I knew she had the feel for these things. And I also knew that as a trained singer, she would be able to stand up and speak well, which she did. One time reading E.E. Cummings, another time reading the stiff prose of the Puritans who wrote as they arrived at Thanksgiving. And she grasped both with equal aplomb. I don't remember the exact circumstance, but I do remember being down here at the church as I was minister, and I had a guitar in my office. And I don't know if I was out here playing with someone or sitting in my office, but she came by and heard me playing and started singing. And it's then that I knew there was something else too. Because as a musician, you may understand this, those of you who are musicians. When you can share music with someone, the making of music with someone, it is a special bond. One that would recreate itself years later when she asked Warren and Palmer and I to accompany her. Warren on violin and me on guitar as she sang the Cyndi Lauper song, my brain's gone blank. What? Colors? Yeah, True Colors. That's it. Thank you, Nora. Thank you. Yeah, True Colors. And so we went to her school. But what had happened is that she'd loved those kids so much over the year. This was a gift she wanted to give her kids. And she told them all about the song. And she explained the song so that when they would hear it, they could experience it fully. Because that's what Ambi was about, was experiencing fully. As I said, there was something special to her, which did not necessarily follow the lines of logic or normal order. For example, at all those Thanksgiving services and every other time I saw her, she called this the Universalist Unitarian Church. And I didn't bother to correct her. Because that for Ambi, it was the universal aspect that brought her here. It was the idea that she could be with someone like Bante learning to chant out in our room and come in the sanctuary and sing in the choir. It was a universal experience and a universalizing experience for her. Now, I couldn't go much farther without saying, if Ambi were really here, I know there would be a Sonic Diet Coke cup somewhere. That was her choice. But I can also tell you that her compassion was really large. After I lost my sight and I was living not too far from here, there was a big ice storm moving in. And I think she was in southwest Oklahoma City. She's probably heading to Edmond to pick up the kids. But she said, "Can I get you anything from the store?" Knowing that it was going to be bad. And so she went and bought me a bag of Honeycrisp apples. And I shall always remember Ambi with the Honeycrisp apples. There's so many times that she was having a challenge and she would call me or I would run into her here, and I had a simple piece of advice for her then. I would just say, breathe. Breathe. Don't forget to breathe. Just breathe. Well, that came kind of back to me, as things do sometimes. This was shortly after I'd lost my sight, maybe 2 weeks. And I was having a tough time. And I'd posted on Facebook what a tough time I was having right then. But I'd already taken my sleeping medication, so I was going to be out pretty soon. But she was concerned about the tone in my post. And she didn't know where I was living, but she knew that Tempe Rude did. So she called Tempe Rude and said, "I'm really worried about Mark. Can you go over there and check on him?" So Tempe and her daughter Shanti, I was awakened by pounding on the door. Shanti can pound a door. And I kind of wandered down and says, "What?" She says, "Oh, well, you're okay." I said, "Yeah." Well, Ambi was worried. I also relied on her a little bit at another time. Not too long ago, maybe 1.5 years or 2 years ago, I'd cut my hand. And because of the location of where I cut it, I couldn't see it. I don't see anything out of this eye, and I couldn't get the angle on this eye where I could see it. So I called her up, and we took pictures of my hand. And she said, "No, I would get some Neosporin on that, or I would soak that in some hydrogen peroxide." But she was being a nurse. Of course, at that point, she was contemplating going back to physician's assistant school, which was a trip she didn't get to take. But we all have things we don't get to do that we plan to. But she did do some of the things that she wanted to do and were most important. She saw her daughters to the point that they are young adults, ladies in their own right. And I know the kind of pride she held in her heart for that. John Haynes Holmes, a Unitarian from the 19th century, wrote, "Time has taken one whose kind we shall not see again. Pride and skill and loveliness, wrath and wisdom and delight are shining still, but hidden from the common sight. Oh, times will give us others then, with names to write in burning gold when they are great and we are old. But she was royal-hearted, rare. Deeds she did and tales she told, but the living, they are hard to spare." And I offer a piece of poetry from Rossetti. Remember. Remember me when I am gone away, gone far away into that silent land, when you can no longer take me by the hand, nor I half turn to go, yet turning stay. Only remember me. It will be late then to counsel or to pray. But if you should forget me, and later remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of what I once had, better by far that you should forget and be happy than remember and be sad. I do believe that Ambi would not want anyone to be sad about her passing in any way. Even though it was far premature, even though she had so many more things that she wanted to do, I don't think she would tolerate us being sad at her death. Better by far that you should forget and be happy than remember and be sad. We have gathered today in the presence of death. But we gather neither in fear nor praise of death. We gather in the Spirit and the things of the Spirit as revealed to us in the life of Ambi Hill Smith. In the presence of life, we say no to death. In the presence of death, may we forever say yes to life. Amen.
Again, please rise in body or in spirit to sing hymn number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Please be seated. We have a number of reflections this evening, and then there'll be some time for family and friends to also come up and say some words if you would like. But first, we'd like to invite Dana Sneed to come up.
As we were listening to Reverend Mark speak, and he said something about the Cyndi Lauper song, all I could think of was girls just want to have fun, so, you know. Anyway, my name is Dana Sneed, and almost every childhood memory of mine is of Ambi. I called her B. Our parents were best friends. At the young age of 2, our journey began. Our family spent every New Year's Eve together until Ambi and I were 19. We banged pots and pans outside at midnight as a tradition. Playing house as a kid was a must for Ambi. We always had to, when we got together when we were young, we had to play house, and she always had to be the mom, always. And I always got stuck with being the dad. And she called me Frank. Frank, yeah. Most of the time when we were together, my brother and Stacy, Ambi's sister, were there, and they ended up always having to be our children. And I am sure the two of them are still a bit scarred from the possible torture we put them through. Being children of the 70s and 80s, some of you are as old as I am, so you might remember the phase of the permanent. So I will never forget the day my mother decided she was done messing with my hair and I was gonna get a perm. So she called my grandmother and she came over, perm kit in hand, curlers, you name it. So that night, it was Saturday, and I had plans to stay at the Hill House, as most of the time one of us were at one of each other's houses. And then we would go to church the next morning. And I will never forget the look on Ambi's face when I walked into her house and she saw my hair and she said very loudly, "You were stupid." And I said, "What?" And she goes, "I have spent my whole life trying to get rid of these curls, and here you are doing it on purpose." She says, "You're just stupid. What were you thinking?" And then I had to sleep on the floor because she said my hair stunk. So we normally shared the big bed, and that did not happen that night. So slumber parties with church friends were a big thing for us too. Playing games, watching movies, palm readings were Ambi's specialty, okay? She was always the first to sleep at a slumber party. Oh, no, don't let her fool you. She pretended she was asleep. Waiting silently until the rest of us dozed off. And we would wake up to frozen bras, drawings on her face, hidden clothing items took hours to find. There was even one time she even froze her own bra so she wouldn't look guilty, okay? But I always knew. So the Dukes of Hazzard was our favorite show growing up, and to be honored today, I have my Dukes of Hazzard shirt on. We both had the same exact poster hung on our bedroom walls. This was it, the one of my shirt. Compliments of Tiger Beater Teen Magazine, one of those. She always said that Bo Duke was hers and I was stuck with Luke. She was bossy like that. So today I'm relinquishing all the rights to Bo Duke, but I told her when I was talking to her a couple days ago that I was still claiming Rick Springfield, Rob Lowe, and Peter Brady. So, in the summers, we would lay out in my backyard. And we'd put sun in our hair, and we'd use baby oil instead of sunscreen. You know, that was the thing to do. And I had slathered in baby oil, but my husband said it was weird. So, but it was, you know, during premium sunburn time was our soap operas. So we had to get really creative. So my parents were both at work, and most of the time it was just Ambi and I, and we literally dragged the TV out into the garage with the rabbit ears so we could watch As the World Turns and Guiding Light. We only dropped the TV once. Thank goodness it still worked, or it would have been not good, so. We had our Madonna phase together, our Motley Crue and 80s hair banging phase. We sang until we were hoarse, most of the time while jumping on the waterbed and getting yelled very often by Sue. She had the most beautiful singing voice, and we sung nonstop. We attended Silver Maple Camp together every summer for almost 10 years. We would always make a bet on who Jimmy Maple was going to ask to the banquet that year, because he was super hot. We shared stories of our first kisses and cried over boyfriend breakups. We would stay up all night talking on the phone with our extra long phone cords, stretched as far as we could get them so we could whisper and no one would hear us. We never missed saying happy birthday to each other. We held each other's babies and cried together with the loss of our dads. Ambi had a quirky sense of humor, always trying to make people laugh. She was passionate about everything that was important to her, and the list of those things would fill up this room. She was always worried about everyone else, and she was a true inspiration. She also was a true believer that when you can't see the light, ignite your own. There are some who bring a light so great to the world that even after they are gone, the light remains. Her light is sitting in this place today. Tori, Lily, Ella, you are her light. Sue, Stacy, Savannah, you are that light. Everyone here today, thank you. You are a part of her light. Home sweet home, my friend. Thank you for so many incredible years of friendship and laughter. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Hawkins, and I want to speak to the professional side of Ambi, if I could. As joyous as growing up in the 70s and 80s, that's certainly one of the things that Ambi and I shared in many of our conversations over the last couple of years. Ambi was a champion. She so championed anyone. And when I say anyone, I also mean anything that seemed that they were at a disadvantage. As an educator, to stand up here and say I've been her principal and Ambi loved kids, okay. But Ambi loved all kids. And she demonstrated the way that she loved them in how she served them. And, there's one of my favorite Ambi stories is having a child in crisis right outside of my office. And it's a rather tense situation as this young man is threatened to harm himself and others. And as you can imagine, there's some protocols that begin to kick in. And including, I'm looking at Ambi going, okay, you gave it your best shot, dear. Let's back away. And so in that moment, as literally things are coming to a head, there's Ambi stepping away going, listen to my voice. And she backed herself all the way to the corner and wanted that child to continue to have an out. And that child ultimately did choose to sit down with Ambi. And I watched Ambi turn a kid that was at the end of his rope. He felt he had no place to go. And Ambi was the one that always went in after them. And I can tell you that within 10 to 15 minutes, that child was sitting side by side with Ambi, having a conversation about his struggles. And so that's just that's just a brief picture of Ambi. She so loved serving her team. And to the point that 3 years ago, when Ambi got her diagnosis, and that's the first time I got to meet Mom up at the hospital, and Janelle, you were there, and we came back to the school after she got out of the hospital and surgery. We sat in the office, and Ambi said, "Okay, what do I do?" And Mr. Hyatt and I looked at her and said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And she said, "I want to work. I want to fight." And it had there was no self in that statement. It was purely the passion that drove her. That she said, "These kids are my life." And she meant it. And so we got to walk with Ambi through the last 3 years. And we all adjusted. And whether over Zoom or on the phone or in person, the thing that came through crystal clear time after time after time in every one of those students' meetings, whether their parent bothered to show up or not, was the fact that there was somebody on this earth that championed them. And that person was Ambi. When we came to March the 7th, Ambi called me. And she said, "Mr. Hawkins, I have to talk to you." She said, "I turned on my computer today and it scared me." She said, "I've never been behind. I've always been ahead." And I said, "I know that." And she said, "But I don't have the mental clarity to do this right now." And I said, "Ambi, that's okay." And again, that selfless, she immediately said, "But I'm not going to quit on my team." And I said, "Ambi, let's talk about the difference between quitting and finishing." And in that moment, we got to share in her professional life that she accepted that I'm finished. I'm completed. There's not another IEP for me to write. And I said, "That's right. There's not." Last Wednesday, it was late in the evening, and last Wednesday, Ambi came to mind. And at that moment, I prayed this simple prayer. And that was that Ambi would get to experience the fullness of the love that she had sown in her lifetime. That she would get to experience the fullness of that love returned back to her. And in that moment, I'm telling you that I know that that prayer was answered. And so when Sue called the next day, I knew, her team knew, that Ambi had fought a valiant fight, but she never quit. But she finished, and she finished well, and she finished as a champion. And that's the professional side of Miss Ambi.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lillian Smith. I'm her second-born daughter. And man, I was trying to think about what I was gonna say. How am I going to put all of these experiences, all her multiple personalities, into just about 5 minutes. And, I think the number of people here and the number of people that have reached out and that are viewing this online, that says more than I ever can or anyone else ever can. Good people surround themselves with good people. And she just had a way with people, man. And all of us and all of the people not here but online can attest to that quite well, I agree. But even when she was diagnosed and fighting for her life, going through treatment, she was still advocating for the people that weren't as fortunate as her and didn't have the things that we had. And every ounce of her soul cares for all of us, our well-being, our happiness. And so for her, let's just love each other. Like, love everybody you come into contact with. Love your friends, love your family. Tell people how much you love them, because you may not get to do that tomorrow. You may not get to tell them how much they mean to you tomorrow. So never take people for granted. And that's the biggest way we can pay her back for what she gave us. And one of the biggest lessons she taught me was, how to love. And she showed me how by loving me, my sisters, our friends, but she also showed us how to love a stranger. And she was always running to Sonic or McDonald's, more likely Sonic. That was just kind of her favorite spot to go. But she'd always, if she saw someone homeless, she would run to the store, run to the gas station, buy him a few water bottles, buy him some snacks. And if we happened to have donation clothes in the back of the van, then we'd load him up with some clothes too and a blanket. And she just taught us how to love the earth and the animals too. We always had bags and bags of bottles and cans under the dining room table that we were meaning to bring here to recycle, but they just kind of accumulate after a while, and then you have to bring like 8 bags at one time. It was ridiculous. But we'd also go through stuff, and we'd look up shelters and organizations that needed things like clothes and blankets, and we would always donate any of the stuff that we didn't need. And she taught us to do that. She taught us to give, and she taught us just so many valuable lessons. Like one of my favorite memories, if I had to choose one, there's so many. She and I got to spend Christmases together, just the two of us, every other year for a few years. And so when it was just the two of us, we decided we wanted to not be selfish. And for Christmas, we would volunteer at whatever she wanted to do, whatever we decided we wanted to do. And one year we went to the city rescue mission, and we got to serve food and some little goodies to the homeless people. And that is one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had, and along with just so many other experiences that she let us all experience. And of course, I would have loved to hear 1,000 more lectures and stand for 1,000 more hours while she takes 20 pictures at once. That was her thing. She loved taking pictures. She would take pictures of anything. You were going to the grocery store. Oh, hold up the broccoli. Let me get a picture. Like, okay, Mom, it's just broccoli. Calm down. But I would love more, thousands more. I wouldn't mind standing for hours in heels just while she's trying to take some pictures. But we're lucky enough to have gotten the amount of time that we got with her. And it's not every day that you meet a gorgeous lady that can sing, maybe not dance too much, laugh and crack a joke, and just love with her whole heart. And she is what I aspire to be. And I could think of no better way to start paying her back than by taking care of her in her last few days, which is what I got to do. I got to spend nearly every hour with her, and the whole time that I was with her and taking care of her, she was constantly talking about other people. She was constantly asking, how's blah, blah, blah? How are they holding up with everything going on? And I'm like, Mom, how are you holding up with everything going on? Like, think about yourself every once in a while, but that wasn't in her. That wasn't in her. And I applaud her for that, for being selfless constantly. And, the world would be a lot better of a place if all of us could just be even an ounce of as selfless as she was. So, for that, love you, Mama, and more than you'll ever know, and I'll see you later. Thank you.
And at this time, we'd like to invite any family or friends, anybody who would like to share a word, to come up to the lectern.
Ready until you went. I think I'm Raquel Frazier. Ambi was a dear, dear friend of mine. And I know that everybody here knows what an amazing person Ambi was. I wanted to take the time to talk just to the girls and share my thoughts, because even though you guys were so close and you spent so much time together, and she loved you so deeply, and you know that, you still don't get the opportunity to get into that adult relationship with your mom. And I was in those shoes, so I wanted you to hear some things from my perspective about that, and also for you to know how amazing she was to her friends. And I don't have enough words that I know to describe her, but or what she meant to me, to so many of our friends, and to this church, and to her colleagues, and to this community, that she was certainly the most giving person I've ever known. Her time, her talent, her love, her support, you name it, she gave it. And always the first person to say, how can I help? What can I do? What do you need? And of course, this church is what brought her into my life and the lives of so many of the other people here. And over the last 14 plus years, our lives intertwined so much because of your lives and our kids' lives. So we had holiday dinners, birthdays, egg hunts, trunk or treat, Advent spirals, hanging of the greens, all those memories of my time that I got to spend with her, but we were spending it together because of our kids. And while we know the choir here is very special, when Ambi sang with them, this room just glowed. So, everybody knows your mom spent her entire life living to serve others. We've all made that really clear. But she found the most fulfillment and joy in raising you three. And during her teaching years, when the summers were so precious, we spent lots of afternoons and evenings at Will Rogers Pool. We'd watch you guys going off the diving boards while we floated around the pool, talking about all the things. And I remember being in awe of her then. She was so committed to keeping you in your school district. That was so important. But that meant she had to have that hideous commute, morning and night, And I remember when she found the house that you guys have now, I actually tried to talk her out of it. I said, it's just so far from everywhere you need to be. And you know, she taught me something, and she said, actually, that doesn't bother her, because those commutes might be tiring, and you know, they might drag on sometimes, but in general, they were forced uninterrupted time with their girls. She said that that's when she got to hear the good and the bad, what was going on in life, what was bothering you. It was forced family time that she wouldn't trade for anything, and it was a commute. To us, we thought, oh, the poor thing has to be in all that traffic. And she didn't want to be anywhere else, because if you guys had just come home and gone home quickly, everybody would have dispersed into their homework or whatever else they were doing. So that was really a good lesson she gave me, was to treasure the time you have together, even if it's running errands or being in a commute together, you're together. And of course, she was so independent and self-sufficient. That was, you know, born out of necessity, being a single mom. And even after she's diagnosed, as you alluded, she just kept going. And she'd pack up that computer and drive herself to chemotherapy and hook up and take a Zoom call and just keep going. And she had IEPs to write, and she wasn't going to stop that because it was so important to her. And she just did all that to demonstrate what it means to keep pushing through the difficult times, to take care of your responsibilities, to be dedicated to your work, and to have that sense of achievement for doing good work. So that was her. She was dedicated, committed, honorable, full of love for her family. She lived her life so that everything she did would be to make it so you had strong, capable, educated, kind. She had those for you as her daughters. And I know you know that you were loved by your mom. That's very clear, and we heard her say it all the time. And it might be a long, long time before you know how deep that really was. It might be years, and there will be times that you'll want to know what she would advise you to do right now, or you wish she was there to tell you what to do next in whatever situation you have. But just know that she made every decision every day with you in mind. And I admired and loved her so much for being that amazing mother to you and amazing friend for me. And I just want you to keep that in your heart.
Again, anyone who would like to say a word, I invite you to do that now.
Seize the day, right? So far, nobody has said anything about Ambi the apothecary. And so I feel like it needs to be said out loud. She was a maker of beautiful smelling, delicious, luxurious, pampering, wonderful products that would show up on your doorstep and be a blessing. There was one time where she was making up a new product that was supposed to help clear your sinuses, and she put out a Facebook post. The person who comes up with the best name for something is going to get a free one. And I'm like, call it Snuffleupagus. And so she did, and I got a free bottle. And then there was a dish detergent a laundry detergent that was very gentle and wonderful, and it had a lemony smell. I said, Ambi, I love this. Can you make it even more lemony? And so Dr. Webster's triple citrus detergent showed up with a special label. I think we were the only consumers of that product. And then there was Lily's Eczema Away, which has been part of our lives for a long time, and the Flower Power, and all sorts of other amazing, beautiful things that the Earth Mom Apothecary made for us. And I might hang on to that last jar of Eczema Away, just to keep a little bit of her hands and love in my house. I was also sharing, I met Ambi in the choir when our kids were littles and her kids were littles. And there was a time in the service during that period where we were supposed to go greet our neighbors. And the choir seemed very far away from the rest of the congregation. And many weeks, Ambi and I would just go out into the congregation to say hi to people, to meet new people, to say hi to our friends. We'd already said hi to all of our choir friends. And one week, and then there would be music to play us back. Everybody was supposed to shut up and sit down again, right, when the music played. And there was one Sunday where Ambi and I got stuck in the back of the sanctuary because we were chatting with people. And so we held hands and skipped back up. And I will treasure that moment with her. And then I have very special memories of singing with Ambi. Our choir director often had the wisdom to have us sing together and during services. And for a couple of Earth Days, we were also tapped to be vocalists. And we had many, many extra rehearsals in Daniel Hall and here to make those services come to life, because they were amalgamations of musicians who had never played before together and never played afterwards. But we spent a lot of time rehearsing together and then making those services happen, and they were a treasure for me because she made me a better singer. And as I said on post, she made me a better mother. She was such a great mom. So, I have much to thank Ambi for, and I know each of you do too.
Ambi was my friend. We sang together here, we played together. But in 2019, she became more than a friend to me. She started her cancer journey a few months before I started mine. And she helped me along the way. She posted about Stevenson Cancer Center and what a lovely, calming place it was. The first time I went there, I knew going in that this was going to be a lovely, calming place because Ambi said so. She told me to go stay on the 7th floor because the nurses were the best there. And so I told my doctor when I had to go back for my second bout of cancer, I said, I want to stay on the 7th floor because my friend Ambi said that the nurses and everybody there is so nice. And I don't think I would have made it through 2 bouts of cancer without having Ambi and her positive, life-affirming attitude as an inspiration for me, and I really appreciate that, and I'm so sorry for all of you.
I am not eloquent or put together, so I apologize. My name's Amber Crump, and I was an art teacher at Western Heights, and I worked across the hall from her for a couple of years. And When I met Ambi, I was bald, and I was going through chemotherapy, and I was just really not having a great time, and I was scared, and everything was falling apart. But, hang on. Okay. Your mother had a way to speak to people that made them the most beautiful, the smartest, the most talented person that you could ever be, even if you weren't. She could pour life into you in a way that no one else could, by doing almost nothing, by just saying, "I'm so glad you're here today," and she had a little way to like her body into you, you know? And it was wonderful. And you know, I left Western Heights, and I went and worked somewhere else, and she was so special to me, and we, you know, she called me every once in a while, or she'd Facebook to post me or whatever, and you know, I tried to call and she'd never answer the phone. She's awful at it. And and then she'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just, you know, it's fine. Just tell me everything in the longest post in the whole world and I'll respond to all of it." You know, and she would. She'd respond to every sentence and everything that I said, you know, and she made me a better mother and a better human being by just being my friend. And you guys were so blessed to have had her as your own. In all selfishness, you know, you should be selfish with the time that you had her and love every second of it. I remember one time we were in a teacher conference and she was talking about Tori, and I don't exactly remember what was going on with school, but something about school, and she was a little bit frustrated, and Tori just wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing. And you know, but in the sweetest way possible, like, "Oh, well, you know, she's gonna figure it out." And I said, "Oh, I know, my daughter, she's a train wreck sometimes, and I'm trying." And she said, "Amber, just remember how old they are and how much potential they have, and just keep telling them how much potential they have." And the way she said it, I knew her daughters are gonna be like the game changers of the world, you know? Anyway, I know she loved you. I know she loved everyone, and with all her heart and all of her being, and it makes me love you the way she loves you. And I don't even know you guys, hardly, you know, really. So, anyway, thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Scott, and Ambi was my first friend back here in Oklahoma City when I moved back from San Antonio. I remember how nervous I was to come back to church here after being gone so long, and I just remember just her presence and just her just welcoming, just automatically, no questions asked. Didn't care, you know, what I'd done in my past, what I was going to do in my future. Just, I like you. just my first friend, and a dearest friend. Felt like she was a sister, you know, a heart sister, no matter what. And just some of my fondest memories is being her mover. I think I helped Ambi move from 3 or 4 different homes. Long days, long nights, laughing with each other, sorting through papers and discussing unmentionables that shouldn't have been where they were. And just being there for each other. You know, there were some times when late night, she needed some help, car needed a jump, things like that. In a heartbeat, I would be there for her. Not for her, but for myself. I got to spend time with her, which was few and far in between. And I didn't care if it was 2 in the morning. She could call me, and I'd throw on a robe if need be and go, because I would get to spend time with her. And just being in her presence brought an inner peace, and she brought myself out of me. She made me feel okay, no matter what weirdness I was projecting. But she's dear, she's my sister, and family will always be mine, no matter what. 2 in the morning, I'm there.
Hi, my name is Marilee Perriam. I'm a member of this church, but I didn't so much get to know Ambi through the church because she was not coming as much by the time I started coming. So we kind of got to know each other very gradually, and I think even we don't quite know how we got to know each other, but through her girls, through them babysitting, and going to Chalice Camp and delivering apothecary things. And we gradually became friends on Facebook and then texting, and we talked about her hardworking, kind, courageous daughters. And we talked about home birth and breastfeeding and babies. And then when she was diagnosed with cancer, shortly after my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and then her dad was as well, and we talked about cancer as well as her wonderful, thoughtful daughters. And something Ambi posted on Facebook stuck with me for a long time. She posted this, and it turns out it was the day before my dad died, but she said, "If the meaning of life is to be here for each other on our journey, I want you to know that you've served your purpose." And that really stuck with me. It's just, the meaning of life is to be here for each other on our journey. And I think, like everybody has said, Ambi was so much there for everybody on their journey, even when she didn't know them that well. And so I have 2 quick memories about how she was there for people. Last December, I was helping furnish an apartment for a refugee family from Cuba, and Ambi quickly contributed gifts for them. But the thing that really got me was that she wrote a little personalized note, which with each separate gift. Like, "We're so glad you're here in America. Like, I hope you enjoy this." And she just was, it was just so kind. And Juliet, since I told her about Ambi's passing, has pulled out those notes and looked at them and remembered and was grateful for her. And then, secondly, shortly after Ambi's dad passed away, my father entered hospice. And in her own time of grief over her father, of Braden, dealing with her own cancer, she reached out to me regularly through my dad's last weeks, through texts and phone calls. And I was so grateful for her kindness and her wisdom. I remember talking with her on the phone outside my dad's house in his last days, and she was a comfort to me during that time. And I'm so grateful. She was there for me. And Tori, Lily, and Ella, I know that she so wanted to be there for you. And I know I speak for myself, and I think so many from our church community when I say that we want to be there for you and support you. You three are beautiful souls, reflective of your mother's beautiful soul, and I love you, and we love you.
Reverend Christian, would you lead us in prayer?
Loving and gracious God, known by all names of God and no names of God, we gather together to consider one who walked with us, who walks with us no more, but is not lost to us. I think what we have here in this time is Ambi joining the ancestors, that primal life force, that primal source of all things, animate, inanimate, that we come from. She is now part of where we all come from. And for just a moment, I want to remember her once more. And I ask you to think of her, to see her face, to see the light in her eyes, maybe even for some of the family to see things in her eyes that other people didn't see, but are there. Listen for the sound of her voice, singing or talking. Think of the touch of her hand and know that she is never farther away from you ever than that. Than that calling into your presence, that ancestor from whom we descend. And know that the love that was incarnate in her, she would send to us. God be with all of us as we find our way through this new land, devoid of one we loved, but not absent from the heart. In the spirit of holiness, we say amen.
After our service this evening, all are invited to an informal reception. You're invited to pick up food and drinks in Daniel Hall, and you're welcome to stay here and go out in our lovely courtyard for fellowship and conversation. And now, please rise in body or in spirit for the benediction. And now may the peace which passes understanding, the peace that comes from acceptance and thanksgiving, the peace that rises above all the strains of the earth, be and abide with us both this day and evermore. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 21 in the gray hymnal, For the Beauty of the Earth.